All right. We're starting in 3, 2, 1, go. Welcome to 32andGoal. I am your host, Corey, and today we got Ryan, and we're going to be discussing Week 11 Sunday game recaps, starting with the Titan and the Colts. Did you get a chance to watch any of these games yesterday?
Yeah, I saw last night's game, the Bears and Vikings. I watched every second of that.
That was a good game.
I caught bits and pieces of the other games.
Yeah, so I only watched the Panthers-Lions, of course, then the Eagles-Saints blowout, and the Vikings and the Bears. So I didn't.
Cowboys Falcons was a pretty good game too. I caught the end of that. The fourth quarter was where the game was coming alive. There was back and forth.
Well, yeah, because like yesterday, all the 1:00 games, there was only a difference. The biggest difference was that Cowboys-Falcons game with 4, with the exception of the Titans and Colts. Like Giants only beat the Bucks by 3, Steelers only beat the Jags by 4. I guess that's one.
Yeah, that game
Lions.
was actually pretty crazy too. I was following the updates on that. The Jags had that game in hand, and apparently Ben Roethlisberger led a comeback there at the end.
Well, it's crazy because originally he had 3 interceptions. Antonio Brown was barely being targeted in the first half.
They were having a terrible game.
They were having an awful game.
James Conner looked bad.
Everyone, yeah, James Conner only had 25 yards on the game.
He dropped a touchdown, too.
And we were just talking about how good James Conner was being this year. And he only gets 2.8.
We also talked about how the Jags defense is still good. They just weren't playing well.
Well, it seemed also like Jalen Ramsey had a chip on his shoulder. I know the Jags were talking about trading him.
Oh, yeah.
And he ended up getting 2 interceptions.
Well, they apparently went to him before the game and told him that's not true at all. The coach talked to him. The GM or the front office put out an official statement saying that wasn't true. And he said that he didn't even care. He just knows that talk's going to happen. He wasn't worried about that. He was just focused on the game. Apparently he was, because like you said, he had a good game.
Yeah. Well, that's good then, because like honestly, that'd be such a bad trade for the Jags. But
that'd be so stupid. They are trying to. The reason it's coming up is because he's due for a contract, and being one of the best cornerbacks in the league, it's gonna tie up a lot of money. But I think you do that.
Right. Exactly. And I don't think there's a single team in the NFL that wouldn't take that contract. But that's just me. So yeah, the Steelers ended up coming back. The Giants Buccaneers game. The Giants, I know you predicted them to win. But the Giants played a lot better than what I thought they were going to play.
Yeah, they were. I just watched highlights of that game. They actually looked good. That's 2 straight wins coming out of their bye week. Maybe they figured it out. Right?
They had four interceptions. 3 on Fitzpatrick, 1 on Jameis Winston when Fitzpatrick got pulled. And then offensively, they did really well as well. Eli Manning went 17 for 18, 231 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like,
easy.
That's crazy. And then Saquon Barkley had 142 rushing yards. Like, they were able to effectively move the ball in the air and on the ground all day.
Barkley had two rushing touchdowns and a receiving touchdown also. He was huge in that game.
Well, what's crazy too is the Buccaneers only lost by 3 when they had 4 turnovers. They still able to get 35 points.
It's got to be so frustrating being a fan of this team. Like it's akin to the Lions where you feel like you're just right there. It's like we can score, we can keep up in these games, but if we eliminated even just a third of these turnovers, we'd be a completely different team.
Right? Because Jameis Winston ended up getting 2 touchdowns. He went 12 for 16, which isn't terrible. And his 1 interception was kind of a Hail Mary at the end of the game. So he did okay. He did a lot better than Fitzpatrick did. So I think going forward, we're probably going to see Jameis Winston start next week. But they need a consistent quarterback down there, or they're not going to be competitive.
I get it. I mean, I get why they pull Fitzpatrick there. I mean, the Giants. The Giants defense has not played that well this year. Even if they're getting it together, it's if he's getting 3 interceptions in this matchup, you can't keep starting him.
Exactly.
I mean, the coach is going to be fighting for his job. I mean, the team might be thinking future, but these coaches have to think, I need to get as many wins as I can, so at the end of the season, I don't get fired.
Exactly. You know, he throws 3 interceptions against the Giants. What's he going to do in 2 weeks when he's playing the Panthers, who have a better defense, or the Saints? You know.
Yeah, right.
So we got the Buccaneers. Jameis Winston will probably, if I had a bet now, he'd probably start next week. But, you know, obviously stuff happens during the week. So it's interesting. Ryan Fitzpatrick is either on fire or just throwing 3 interceptions. There's no in between with him. So,
right.
And that's kind of the same
one
thing.
So moving away from that game, I wanted to talk about the Packers played on Thursday, so it's easy to forget about them.
Mm-hmm.
But after looking at the playoff standings, and thinking about it and looking at some schedules, the Packers are in ridiculously good position to do what they've done in the past, where Aaron Rodgers just gets on fire and they could end up winning the division if the Bears drop enough games, because the Packers play the Vikings next Sunday, where they could get up on the Vikings because they're only 1 game behind them.
Mm-hmm.
With a win there. Then they get to play the Cardinals at home. Then they get to play the Falcons at home. And then they play the Bears. They got to go at Chicago. But that's still a scary game for the Bears. Aaron Rodgers can beat you at any point.
Mm-hmm. As he did earlier this season.
Yeah, exactly. They get the Jets, and then they get the Lions. Their schedule is ridiculously easy. They could, if they win out or only have 1 loss, I don't think anyone would be surprised with that schedule. We could be setting up for another crazy Packers run.
Well, I know the Packers, you know, they got the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field, right? But their last 3 games, Bears, Jets, Packers, they're all in December and they're all in winter areas. You know, that's hard to play 3 snow games in a row if it comes to that. So that's might be a little bit challenging for them. I know they're used to playing in the snow. I know Aaron Rodgers is used to playing in the snow. But yeah, even the Falcons game is in. It's going to be in Lambeau in the snow.
I think that favors them. Honestly, I think that favors them, especially with the way they've been running the ball lately with Aaron Jones. That's what you do when the weather gets colder. You have to run the ball, and it looks like they're committed to it because they have no receiving options. But if their receiving options can just do enough, and their defense can keep playing well enough, I think they could. The schedule lines up for them to. They could get the wild card. I mean, we were talking before we came on. The wild card in both leagues or both divisions is wide open, and Minnesota's holding on to it with a 5-4-1 record, and Green Bay's there with a 4-5-1 record. I mean, they could easily grab that.
Exactly, and down in the South, you know, 4-6, it's still wide open.
Yeah. Atlanta's right there.
Seahawks,
4-6. Dallas actually looks really good. Which is crazy. You looked at the Cowboys in September and early October, and it was like, this is not a playoff team. And here they are. The Redskins lost their starting quarterback, and the Cowboys are only 1 game behind them, and they get to play them this Thursday.
And the Eagles just got completely embarrassed yesterday. So, like, I don't even know what the NFC East is right now.
Yeah, the Cowboys are up.
Right?
Right. I think it's the Cowboys are the team to beat in it, which sounds crazy.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, I would have laughed if anyone said that. Now it's like, what's going on in the NFC East?
Now it's kind of just like, yeah, they are the team to beat.
Even the Giants right now, 3-7, they're only 2 games behind wild card.
Boys, yeah,
they're only 2 games behind the wild card.
Yeah, it's if they go on a run, it would be shocking, but at the same time, almost makes sense with what they have because they weren't expected to be this bad.
I mean, looking at their schedule, it's pretty tough. They got the Eagles, the Bears, the Redskins, the Titans, the Colts, and the Cowboys. So
Oof, that is rough.
that is rough. So, I mean, at this point in the season, in the NFC, I think there's only 2 teams that we can count out of playoffs, and that's the Cardinals and the 49ers. Both of them are sitting at 2-8. The Lions are getting close. They're at 4-6. It's going to be a huge if they can beat the Bears on Thanksgiving. But yeah, the Buccaneers, if they lose one more, they're pretty much done.
Yeah, I would think so. I think in the next 2 weeks, things will shake out more because a lot of these teams end up playing each other.
But
and we'll see a clearer picture. But nobody's going to be out of it. I think this is going to come right down to the wire with a lot of these teams.
Especially, going back to the NFC North, you mentioned that the Packers have an easy schedule going forward. But listen to the Vikings schedule. They play the Packers, they play the Patriots, the Seahawks. They play the Patriots and Seattle on the road. Come home, play the Dolphins, go to the Lions, Ford Field, and then play the Bears at home. So that's
terrible.
That's 6 games where you could be like, that could go either way. I would
Dolphins
favor.
Is the only game that I would favor them in, really.
Exactly, and that's at home. I would typically favor them against the Lions, especially with the season. But it's a division game, so you never know how those are going to go, especially in the NFC North. So, 2 back-to-back division games to end the season. I think the Bears, if I'm not mistaken, have a similar difficult schedule. Kind of.
The thing with the Bears is, so we watching that game last night. The Bears, they kind of are what I thought they were. They just look so dominant on defense, and their offense is completely competent enough to put up 20+ points a game. They did it on the Vikings last night, which is what the Vikings defense was playing well.
Right, and that's
the Bears are one of those elite teams.
That's with Trubisky getting 2 interceptions yesterday.
Hey,
but I believe Trubisky just took over as most rushing yards from a quarterback, if I'm not mistaken.
Possibly. They were talking about that a lot during the game, how he had the highest yards per carry in the league, and he looked incredible when he ran. It was like he looked like a running back.
He did it so seamlessly compared to other quarterbacks who kind of he looked like it was like his natural state.
Yeah. You could compare it just to Kirk Cousins last night. What Kirk Cousins was given a first down basically that he could have ran, and it made sense. He tried to go to Stephon Diggs for a bigger play that was covered well, but Trubisky would have taken that and maybe taken it for a touchdown.
Right.
He was on his Michael Vick last night. He was looking really good.
Yeah, and they have the weapons too on offense. They're not rock star names that you sit here and you're like, oh man, I want all these guys on my fantasy team, but they're good enough.
True, but people
to do what they need to do.
You watch the NFL, you know these guys. Taylor Gabriel,
Jordan Howard
was a young guy who was breaking out with the Falcons. And the Bears needed depth, so they signed him. Anthony Miller was drafted this year and expected to be a breakout player, and he's doing that. He caught a touchdown last night. Allen Robinson was a star wide receiver. He's had up and down years since or in Jacksonville. He had the Pro Bowl year, and then he had the mediocre year, and he had an injury year. But he was signed to a pretty big contract to be their number 1 guy. And he's come back. He was, he tore his ACL, and he looked completely healthy since the beginning of the season. Trubisky just needed to come on, and so he's a reliable weapon for him. They brought in Trey Burton, and they weren't able to do much with him last night. But he's a receiving tight end. He draws coverage, and the running backs Cohen and Howard, they have a great all around offense.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of these guys weren't there last year in Trubisky's rookie season, so I think a lot of people were counting Trubisky out, not realizing he just didn't have weapons around him. He had no one to throw to, which I think helped his scrambling game a little bit. He was always running last year. I was telling my girlfriend's dad, who's a Bears fan, how flawlessly he seems to be able to run. Watching him last year against the Lions twice, There was a time when it was like 3rd and long, and he ran it for like 30 yards against us. And it's like, that guy can scramble. Like, a lot of people count him out. What?
Don't give him a running lane because he's gone.
Exactly.
He did it last night. He looks great running. You're right.
Which makes him very dangerous outside of the pocket in the same sense that like Patrick Mahomes is dangerous outside of the pocket. Is he going to throw it? Is he going to run it? Like, you're gonna pull your defense. You're gonna go after him. And that leaves your receiver wide open. So it's like, it's a good combo to have in a quarterback.
Getting vindicated on that pick. They traded up to the 5th pick to pick him in the same draft that Mahomes went in, and Watson, I believe, and Deshaun Watson, and it was kind of looking bad at first, especially the Patrick Mahomes one. But Trubisky's coming on, and he's definitely their guy of the future. I don't see why this would slow down. If anything, it's just going to get better for them. Did you see the last night during the game when they said that this was one of the youngest teams in the league? They said that they only had 3 players over the age of 30 on their team.
Yeah, it's
and
crazy.
The backup quarterback, the long snapper, and defensive rotation guy.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
It's insane. Like that's every other important position on the team is under 30 years old. That's crazy.
Well, I think Akeem Hicks is almost 30, right? He's like 29. But
maybe either way, that's still in prime position for them to be good for the next couple years at least, if not more.
Yeah.
The same way that the Chiefs look.
Exactly. I don't know how their contracts look. I haven't really taken a look at it, but if they're all under 30, a lot of those guys are going to be coming back. But their defense is so incredibly good, man. Led by, a lot of people say Khalil Mack, but man, Akeem Hicks looked unstoppable yesterday. He had 6 tackles, 1 sack.
Because Khalil Mack.
That's fair.
I was going to say playing next to Khalil Mack, but yeah. Hicks definitely he has to still do it. He looked great.
Khalil Mack also had 1 sack, 1 fumble, forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery. Again, I think that's like his fifth fumble recovery this year. It's insane.
Which is crazy because he missed like 3 games.
Yeah, and like a lot of those games, when they played a couple weeks ago, I think they played the Dolphins. He was playing. No, it wasn't the Dolphins. I think it was the Dolphins. He was playing on like a sprained ankle and still doing really well. I think he did the same thing against the Pats. I think he had a sprained ankle around that time. So
he's a physical freak, man.
It's crazy, man. And he seems like he's not like cocky about it either, where a lot of players, if they're that talented, getting compared to like the best in the game, they get cocky, and he's not. So
he's a guy you want to root for because he's just so fun to watch. They had to like triple team him last night to stop him.
I mean, it almost worked, but anyway, let's talk.
The Vikings kind of came on at the end of that game. Just real quick, they went to Stephon Diggs so many times. He got 18 targets last night in the game. I think the Bears are doing a good job on Adam Thielen because Kirk usually looks his way, but he went to Diggs for the last 2 drives a lot, and it would have been interesting to see them pull it off, but they weren't even really close. The Bears had them,
right? Yeah. So there was a couple of games that really none of us predicted. The Panthers-Lions, the Cowboys-Falcons, the Raiders-Cardinals, and the Broncos-Chargers.
That Broncos-Chargers game, crazy. The Chargers, like we said, that the Broncos-Chargers game probably should be good because it's a divisional game and the Broncos aren't terrible. It's just you'd think that the Chargers would kind of make a statement in that game, and they did not.
Yeah, something was wrong, man. They had Phillip Rivers. He threw 2 interceptions, which hurt a lot, but he threw for over 401 yards on only 28, completions. Keenan Allen did really well.
I read. Yeah. I was gonna say I read that the Broncos played the run extremely well. Melvin Gordon, I think he had a couple big plays, but other than that, they were stout against the run.
Yeah, they did extremely well, and then they were able to not really run effectively. Philip Lindsay, like we were talking about, young guy, small guy. He had 11 carries, 79 yards.
He also had 2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns.
4 receptions.
Yeah.
He was all over the place. He was great. They use him effectively. A lot of people want him to get a lot more run, but it's kind of like Alvin Kamara, where like you give him a certain amount of touches a game because he's so explosive. There's no reason to overuse him.
Exactly. And then, he had over 100 yards yesterday against the Chargers, in LA. But it's I'm interested to see how he develops over the years, cuz he seems like he's very explosive, like you were saying. But I don't know.
He's like 180 pounds. A lot of people still worry about his durability, but he's made it through this season. He hasn't been injured yet. And his running mate Royce Freeman, who's a lot bigger than him, has been injured.
Yeah, I'm aware. So
yeah, the Broncos are they're still alive in the playoff hunt. They're 4-6. I mean, the teams ahead of them, the Titans look like they're going down. The Colts look like they could actually get that spot, because they'd have to pass Houston in their division to win it, and I don't know if they could do that. They're only 2 games behind them, but the Texans look really good.
The Texans do look really good, and so do the Colts. And the Titans and Jags seem to be falling off. I know the Jags just got a win, but
yeah, the Jags would have to go on a pretty good run to catch up.
Because their wild card spot is, the wild card spot in the AFC is pretty much, if the Chargers don't somehow screw it up, they have 7 games. That's tied for every other first place in the league, or their divisions. Pats only have 7 wins. Steelers have 7 wins. Texans have 7 wins. Chargers have 7 wins. So, unless they fall off pretty hard, I'm going to assume they get the wild card spot.
I was going to agree. I think they've kind of locked that up. I don't think they'll fall off that much. They have a 2-game lead on the other teams. They just got to keep pace, and they're good enough to do it. I mean, that Broncos game, the Broncos are a good team. When we've seen them be a good team seemingly half the year, and then the other half of the year they're losing to teams like the Jets. But I think that what we've seen in the 7 wins is more indicative of the Chargers. So they've got that. I just don't see teams like Baltimore, Cincinnati, Miami really passing them.
Yeah, especially because they're playing the Cardinals next week. And then Steelers, Bengals, Chiefs, Ravens, Broncos. So they should be able to win like half those games. And
right.
They
won't be underdogs very much in any of those games.
Yeah,
maybe just the Chiefs.
So, going on, let's talk about the Lions-Panthers game. Yeah, it's a pretty crazy game overall.
Yeah, the Panthers are idiots. That was so stupid at the end of the game to not take the tie and keep going. I mean, because they had swung momentum in their favor at the end of the game. Like, I get trying to just get the win on the road, but I mean, I trust Cam Newton in overtime. I trust my defense in overtime.
Yeah, and I get that Gano went 0 for 2. He missed 1 field goal, missed 1 PAT. But you don't miss 2 PATs typically, unless you're Mason Crosby against the Lions. I was looking at the stats. Go on.
I'm gonna say the Lions seem like they're kicker kryptonite or something. I
Dude,
don't know what's going on lately,
insane.
But anytime someone plays us, they lose their nerve or something.
Yeah, because Crosby choked pretty hard against us.
So did Parkey for the Bears.
He hit the upright 4 times.
Exactly.
You don't hit the upright 4 times. And then Gano yesterday hit the upright as well. So, I don't know. I saw that we have the lowest, the Lions had the lowest kicker percentage against them right now by like 10%.
Super weird.
Yeah. So, here it is. I found it. So, the people have only been able to score 62% of the time kicking against the Lions. And the next is 69 with New Orleans. So that's like 7 points right there, or 7% difference between us and the second.
the thing that the Saints, what the Saints do is they just put up so many points that you have to give up on kicking.
Right, and that's only in the stadium. That's only at Ford Field. That doesn't account for the 4 times in Soldier Field when he kicked 0 against us. So that's crazy right there.
Super weird.
I'm not complaining. You know, if it keeps happening, awesome.
Yeah, it's great luck.
But yeah, you know, it kind of happened the way I said it was going to happen. You know, I said the difference maker was going to be Damon Harrison in this Lions-Panthers game. Christian McCaffrey was only able to get 53 yards, averaging only 4.1 yards per carry. Cam Newton only got
good. That's great yards per carry. I don't understand why he didn't have more carries.
Exactly. And Cam Newton had 2, and then Payne had 1 yard. So, you know, they kind of limited them that way. Christian McCaffrey had a couple breakout runs that kind of made it higher than it was. He was getting stopped at the line almost every time.
That probably skewed the average.
But on the other side of the ball, Kerryon Johnson was able to run effectively, but he did suffer a knee sprain, so he could be out for 2-3 weeks.
God, it was just that though,
and not a torn anything.
If it was like some kind of like MCL thing, that would have been way worse. But hopefully he just needs a couple weeks because he's having a crazy great rookie year, and that would suck for it to end here.
Exactly. You know, we talked about how Lions don't typically take care of their running backs that well. A lot of running backs could be good running backs over the years. You know, Droik Bell, Amir Abdullah, all these guys could have been great running backs, but they just get hammered so hard their first couple years that they're done. Droik Bell went on to run in the Olympics preliminary against Usain Bolt. Like, he was fast, and he just came into a system where they completely destroyed him early on. And hopefully that doesn't happen to Kerryon Johnson, who is the future back of this organization.
He's also better than any of the backs that they've had in years.
Yeah.
Kerryon Johnson's actually a really special talent.
Yeah, he doesn't have top speed. He's not the fastest guy in the league by any means.
Yeah, but he's a great running back. Speed isn't everything.
But he's a great running back.
He has enough breakaway. Yeah, he has enough breakaway speed to make plays happen, but he can do everything.
He reads our defense really well. He runs behind his blocks really well, and he has that great burst speed that can pick up 4 or 5 extra yards. And
he's a great receiver. He can do it all.
And apparently he's hard to tackle. I don't know if you watched the game. You said you only watched bits and pieces, but it was almost never the first guy that hit him that brought him down. It kind of reminded me of the way Golden Tate ran for us back when he was a Lion, where the first guy almost always can't tackle him. And, that's pretty important for a running back. But, he got hit pretty hard on that knee, so hopefully he makes a good recovery. Kenny Galladay, on the other hand, receiver, Marvin Jones Jr. didn't play, like you said.
Right. He's the only one left, trading away Golden Tate. Marvin Jones is injured. He had to step up.
And he had one of the best catches, I think, of his. It was just crazy. The extension on his body to be able to swing back and make that rotation. People compare him to a young Megatron. I wouldn't say that. I think he's good in his own right, but dude can ball. And Bruce Ellington, I don't know who that is, but he stepped it up pretty big yesterday too.
He played with the Texans before, but yeah, he was just available, and they needed depth. They picked him up. That's good to hear that he was playing well. I didn't see any of his plays, but they need depth at receiver real bad.
Yeah, he was kind of running routes that those slant routes, those short routes that Golden Tate would have ran, which is huge in this offense because they need that short pass rusher or short receiver who can get the ball because, the offensive line can't hold defenses well against Stafford. Stafford only got sacked 1 time, 16 times in the 2 games before that. So maybe Ellington was able to pull off the defense a little bit, give him extra time, but we'll see in the coming weeks, man. Last game I want to talk about is this the Redskins Texans game. Oh man, this was brutal to watch. For those of you who are under a rock this last day, Alex Smith broke 2 bones in his leg on a hit by J.J. Watt and I forgot who else. And it was awful looking. Did you see this or no?
I saw the hit, but not any replays or anything like that to really see it. I didn't really want to.
Yeah, it was brutal. It
sounds horrible.
It looked like when Harry Potter cast that spell on his arm to take out all the bones in his arm, and it was just hanging like a loop noodle. That's what it looked like, and it was insane. Deshaun Watson threw really well. DeAndre Hopkins, really, really good. I'm starting to like DeAndre Hopkins more and more as time goes on.
Yeah, you should. He's one of the best talents in the league at receiver. No matter who his quarterback is, he's done really well.
Yeah. Demaryius Thomas, I don't know what was up with him. He didn't even get a single reception or a single yard. So, I thought he was going to make a bigger impact on this team. It's still early in his career with the Texans, so I'm not going to
Yeah, there's still time.
talk, the same way people are talking about Golden Tate when he went to the Eagles, but man, Colt McCoy came in and made a touchdown on the first play, I think. So it's going to be interesting to see if Colt McCoy can step up for this Redskins offense. He struggled in the Browns when he was played in Cleveland, and that's kind of just the system that he was put into. The Redskins, I think, are a little bit better developed than the Browns were when he played for them. So I think it's going to be interesting. He went 6 for 12, which is 50%, but I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, the Texans kind of got lucky at the end of the game because the Redskins could have driven to get a field goal to win, but they could only get as far enough to make it a 63-yarder, and that was a tough ask for the kicker.
Yeah, it's always a tough ask. You're asking. I think that would be the record, right? What's the longest? 61? 62?
A longest field goal?
Or is it 64? I know it was Prater.
It's longer than that.
Longest NFL field.
It was 63. It's 64 now. It's 64 now.
And that's with what, Matt Prater?
Yeah, in 2013.
In Denver, though. So,
yeah.
That's a lot to ask, someone, like you said.
Hopkins, it was Dustin Hopkins. He's a good kicker, but yeah, it was. That would have been huge. Gano I think Gano hit a either 61 or 63 yarder to win a game earlier this year for the Panthers.
Oh, he did. That was an insane kick if I remember right, and it was.
It was 63 yards, so he tied the second longest field goal with that one.
Who was that against? Was that against the Giants?
Giants. It was against the Giants, yeah.
That was crazy. But he missed a PAT yesterday, so that's that Lions curse we were talking about. Is there any last games you want to talk about?
No, I'm just excited for tonight's game.
Oh my god. I really
can't wait to watch it.
I know we already talked about it, man, but this game is going to be insane. Our fantasy also comes down to this game.
Yeah, we're playing each other in fantasy, and you have Tyreek Hill and I have Brandon Cooks. We're essentially tied, and it's just going to come down to whoever has a better game, which is just perfect. It'll just make the game even more interesting.
Yeah, you're sitting at 125. I'm sitting at 124.2. Both of us had.
I'm a little scared because Tyreek Hill, honestly, it only takes one play, and he could end it. He's not a guy that needs a lot of volume. He just, he could have 2 catches, and they're both long touchdowns. So I'm gonna be afraid, but I'm gonna still enjoy the game either way. I'm in it to see all the stars. There's so many fantasy relevant players, just fun offensive players to watch.
It's crazy too because you need this win. I mean,
oh yeah, if we're talking our standings in our fantasy league, I definitely need this win.
because the other two guys that host with us, Ryan and Tyler, they're sitting at 5-5 and 6-4. You also have 6-4. I'm at 7-3.
It's a tight race. There's only 4 playoff spots.
There's only 4 playoff spots. I was supposed to do East and West, but apparently I, as the GM, messed that up. My bad. So.
What do you mean?
I was supposed to be the top 2 from the East and the top 2 from the West. But
that's fine. 2 division winners and then the next 2 highest teams. That's fair.
Yeah. So, whatever. Makes sense.
It's a tight race though. It's real tight. If I beat you, then I had the same record, which would be really nice. But
you would too, because I'm not sure.
You got that division locked up.
I'm not sure. Todd is going to be able to beat. Well, let's look. Todd has Carson Wentz kind of shit the bed for him, only going 0.8 yesterday against New Orleans.
My God, yeah. If we want you want to talk about fantasy with that Eagles team, that must have killed a lot of people because Alshon Jeffrey's a relevant player. Zach Ertz, I had in another league I'm in. Zach Ertz killed me pretty bad. Yeah, there's just and then Wentz. I mean, that's your quarterback spot. You throw in a 4 or whatever he got.
Right.
That's a weak killer.
But yeah, man, you made the mistake of not playing Ingram, but whatever.
I wouldn't call that a mistake given. I mean, if we're gonna tell people what my running back depth is, I played Christian McCaffrey, James Conner, and Zeke over them, those are all guys who could easily be the number 1 on any week. So, and I wouldn't start Ingram, who's essentially like a backup running back on his own team. He has good weeks, but there's plenty of times where I think he got a lot of run because the Saints are anticipating they have to play on Thursday.
Right.
So they go Sunday to Thursday. So it's like you have 2 good running backs. They gave Mark Ingram 16 carries and Alvin Kamara only touched the ball like 11 times and he still had a great game.
Yeah, looking at the rosters, you definitely have depth at running back, man. Even like all you have is running backs.
Depth.
My players, I got Saquon Barkley, Kerryon Johnson, who does well, but I'm gonna have to figure out what to do with him. Well, that sucks. I don't have another running back. Oh, I got Lamar Miller. We'll figure that out when the time comes.
He's doing pretty well this year.
He is doing really well. Might have to make some trades, but is there any other game you want to talk about? I think, we'll talk about the Chiefs,
covered it.
Rams, maybe tomorrow.
That was a good week.
It was a good week, and we said it was going to be a good week. Us here at 32andGoal know our football. But man, there was so many close games. There was only, with the exception of the Colts game and the Saints game, there wasn't a blowout. There was not a single blowout. Well, those 2 games, but like. The Bears, I think, besides those 2 games, had the biggest difference with 5 points. So less than 1 touchdown. So, yeah.
That's
Giants won by 3. Steelers won by 4. Lions won by 1. Cowboys won by 3. Ravens by 3. Texans by 2. Raiders by 2. Broncos by 1. Bears by 5. So. That's huge. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. That's just how close the league is. I mean, a lot of good teams are not going to make the playoffs.
Exactly. A lot of good teams are not going to make the playoffs. The Colts, with Andrew Luck throwing 500 touchdowns this season, might not make the playoffs. And the Eagles, the returning Super Bowl champs, might not make the playoffs. That's crazy. So
you're right.
And there's 2 or 3 divisions that could potentially have 3 teams going to it, or just the team that wins. And you're like, what the heck? But there's not a lot of teams that are sitting above 500 right now either.
The league's pretty wide open, and it's going to get interesting in the next month.
Especially this late in the season. A lot of people are going to have to start giving it their all. So, yeah, typically by now you have some more front runners, I feel like. We have a few, and, the Chiefs are pretty much running away with that division, even though they're only 2 games ahead of the Chargers. Would have been 1 if it wasn't for the Broncos. And then the Rams, they got a 4-game lead in the NFC West. But everyone else, you're sitting at like 1-2. Well, I guess the Saints are up by 3 now, but it's crazy. Which is another thing. Going back to the Lions-Panthers game, you're sitting at, they had 6-4 or 6-3. The Saints were at 8-1. You're 2 games behind the Saints in the NFC South, a very competitive division, and you go for the 2. That is stupid.
Yeah.
That is absolutely stupid.
Yeah.
You're playing in a must-win situation.
If it works, we're not. Yeah, if it works, we're not saying this, but at the same time, it's like, I just think that you trust your team,
right? Especially,
that's really good. You're not one of those crappy teams that's like, okay, this is our only chance. We got to win it right here. It's like they're not one of those teams that needs to do that.
Exactly. They got the Seahawks next week, the Buccaneers after that, the Browns, the Saints again, the Falcons and the Saints, or the Saints, the Falcons and the Saints. So I guess they haven't even played the Saints yet. So that's 2 tough games right there. The Falcons, they should be able to win because the Falcons are kind of a dumpster fire for some reason. But
that's a divisional game.
Exactly.
So that's not a guarantee at all.
And what was the score the first time they played? It was they lost. They lost the Falcons the first time they played them, 31-24. So what are you guys doing? You guys are making mistakes.
Yeah. It sucks for the Panthers. I mean, I still think that they could get one of those wild cards.
Right.
But we could easily see it being, the Panthers end up dropping out of that and Seattle jumps up there,
Right.
Especially since they have to play them. So.
But man, it was a good week of football. I'm glad I was able to catch a lot of it. I'm going to watch the, recaps to some of the games I wasn't able to look at, but man, I'll probably, for those of you listening, Rob and I will probably be back tomorrow morning to talk about the Rams-Chiefs game. For those of you who want to join in live on Twitch.
I might be able to join you guys because I don't work tomorrow.
Oh, do you not? So, yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be the game. This is going to be the game of the year. They're making a lot of changes to make this I know it's ESPN and they have kind of bad coverage sometimes, but even then, they're not going to – it's going to be a good game. So join us tomorrow morning, probably 10 o'clock a.m. on Twitch. If you can't, we'll have the video uploaded tomorrow on YouTube. So everyone else, thank you guys for stopping by. Is there any last words you want to say before we leave?
Just excited for tonight.
All right. We will see you guys tomorrow.